Hello everyone, my name is Yulia and I'm from Kojic team. In this video I will show you how to create a web shop using Kojic Builder. This is how our final goal application will look like. So the user will have an ability to view the variety of the books in the store, view the details about each of them, add them to the cart, form the order, and finally buy the books. But in case if we will log in as administrator, we'll also have a functionality to manage the existing list of books, order, and addresses. So let's start with creating our bookstore application. For this, let's click on Create New App button and give the name for our application, which will be Bookstore. We will select the blank app because we will create an application just from scratch. And then we decide what will be the account for, and we are ready to create our application. And after this, we will have it in our list of existing applications. And here it is, and now we are ready to start developing it. As the main element of our bookstore application is a book itself, we will start with creating a web page to store the data about it. And now we are redirected to the page editor. Let's add the fields that we will need to store the data about the book for. The first one will be the text field to specify its name. The same field will be to store the author. Also we'll have a number field, which will be the decimal to store the price of our book unit. And also we will add a text input but with multi-line text to store the description, large description of each book. And also to have some preview on a page, we will add a file which will be storing the cover picture for our books. To have an ability to view the picture for our cover, we'll change the preview to be like this, like whole picture, and also we can a little bit prettify our main page, so we can drag the fields like this to make it a bit more structured. And now let's save and publish our application to have a look on our page. After the successful publishment of our application, let's open it and try to create some book for our shop. So let it be the Lord of Flies. Let's also input the author, who is Golding William. Also specify the price for it and paste the description. The next step will be to upload some cover picture, which is out here. Let's open it and now save, and as you can see, now we have our created book in the collection of our application. As you can see, I have added new books to our collection, but now this is not the way we want to present them to our customer. So let's create a separate bookstore page with a dashboard with all of the books with some beautiful view. So this collection will be for the management of the books for administrators, but for users we'll create the new web page in our application, and let's call it Bookstore. And after creating, let's add the collection of our views on it. As this page will be for user only to view the books, we need to remove different buttons and toolbar for him to not edit anything in our shop, and we will add now our collection of books for him to view. Let's give it a name to be books and create it on our form. But as you can see, the view is actually the same as on a previous page. Therefore, let's save our page, go to the data types, and for book data type we will create a new type of view which is called card view, and right over here we will form a new way to represent our books on the page. And for our card, we will again split all of the group boxes to place our fields on them. Let's place them on our card view like this. Here will be the picture of our cover, and here all of the information about the book. Now we save it and going to our bookstore page now and opening it. We can now for our collection select a specific way to show it, like a card grid. So now we can save and publish our application to test how does this page will look like. And now if we'll open our application and go to the bookstore page, as you can see, the collection is actually empty, and the reason is that we only created it, not filled with the values. And for this, we'll go to our bookstore data type and create an action with a trigger on a load of the page. So what we need to do, we need to load all of the books to our collection. So what we do from our page, we take the collection of books and set it to be filled with a stream of the whole books in our application, which means we need to stream through the whole books data type like this. So now we can save and publish our application again to view if our collection will not be empty right now. So now when we will open our bookstore page, as you can see, all of the books are now displayed as the cards. But as you may remember from our goal application, we also need to have two buttons out here. The first one to view the details about each book, and the second one to add it to the cart. So let's modify our cart view for a book with adding those two buttons on it, the first and the second one. Let's give them add titles. The first one will be to view more, and the second one to add to cart. Let's create an action on a click on this button, and in this case we will need to redirect our user to the page with details for book. Therefore this action will be before server action on the client side, so let's call it view more the same way. And now we are redirected to the code block editor. So on a click on this button, what we need to do, we need to open in a new Kojic tab the instance of the book the user is clicking on. So we will open update instance. The instance will be our item, our book, and we select a specific view because it may be selected to be a card view, but we don't need it. So for our book we need to find out the view. Let's select it. And also what we need to do for a view of our book, we need to remove for user the ability to edit the page. Therefore on a toolbar we remove this button, and also we select read only setting. And now if we will save it out here and publish, we will try to test our view more button. So again, let's move to our bookstore page, and as you can see, all of the cards has two buttons now, and clicking on view more, we are now redirected to the page with details for book. But the second button was to add it to the card, and first of all, let's create those cards on our bookstore page. So on our bookstore page, we add a collection of books, which will be our card exactly, and drag it on our form. But we don't need to display a description and cover in those tables, so let's create a specific table view for our card and remove these two columns out here. And now we can move to our card view for a book to work with this button, and let's create an action with adding a book to a card. So for our add to cart button, we create an action which we'll call the same, and now we are redirected to the code block editor. Out here, what we want to achieve, we want to add this item, which is a book we clicked on, to the cart collection, but we don't have any access to those collection. And for this, what we'll do, we'll use a bit of custom code. So first of all, we'll start with creating a variable of a bookstore data type, and we'll call it current bookstore. So actually we want this variable to be equal to the current state of our bookstore page, and we'll use it with setting a custom code which will be like this view control context model, which will give us a current state of a bookstore page. And now we need to update it. So what we want to do, we want to add to the collection our book, so our item. Let's get this value, and add it to the collection on the current bookstore, the card. Let's get it. And after we updated it, we also need to update the state of a page. Again, with using custom code, this one. So what we do, we set our current state to be equal to current bookstore variable, which now is with updated card. So let me fix the name. And now we can save and publish our application to test our second button. And now when we'll open our bookstore page, as you can see, we have now a card collection out here, and clicking on our add to cart button, those books are displayed in the collection. But also we need to add a button for user to start forming his order in case if he finalized his choice of books. So let's go to our bookstore page and again update it with adding a button. So going to our bookstore page, we now add a button on it, and let's give it a title which will be confirm order. But actually we don't have any page to store the orders, so we need to fix it. And let's go to our web pages and create a new one which will be for order. First of all, we will add a collection of books that user wants to buy, which will be the collection of books from a cart. So let's add it on our page. The next field will be the total price of all of these books. So let's add it and call like this. And the next block on this page will be to store the personal data about the customer. So he will specify his first name, then his last name, then we'll have a field to store his email to send a submission for, and also his contact number. On this page we'll also store the date of an order. So let's store it out here. And also the date for user wants to have order to be shipped. So it will be required date. And of course user needs to specify the address of shipment, but for this we'll create a new data type which will contain the country, city, postal index and other details. So let's go to the web pages and create the new one to store the address. Let me fix it. So to add for our user an ability to add a shipment address, we will add the following fields. The first one to specify the country you want the books to be shipped to, then region, then followingly city, then also the postal index, and street and building. And now we're ready to have a field for a shipment address on our page for order. So let's go out here and add a new field of an address data type, and we'll call it shipment address. Now we drag it on our page. And as we want to have an ability to modify, update and form our order, we'll create it on our bookstore page. But as we don't want to see our user to view it while it is not ready, what we will do, we'll add it on our page, but we'll make it hidden. And now we're ready to create an action of forming the order by click on this button. So let's name it like this and go to the code block editor. So to start forming our order, we'll first of all create the following data type variable. We will call it current order. And now we are ready to set all of the fields for this variable. We'll start with a total price, and for this we need to create a decimal data type instance which will store our total price. And now to calculate it, we first of all set it to be equal to 0, and then we will add the price for each book. So for each book in the stream of books which we have in the cart, so let's get this value, this collection. So for each book in the cart we need to set our total price to be the result of summing of the previous value of total price. Let's get it. And also we'll add a price of the book, and here it is. So let's get it and set it. And also in this loop we can start forming our books to buy in order collection. So what we will do, we will add to our items order, or even for our current order, first of all, books to buy collection, we will add with this code block to this collection current book. Let's get it. So now we have two fields ready, the total price and the collection, and we can go on. Now, in case if our total price is equal to 0, it means that user hasn't selected any book and we don't need to create any order. So let's check this condition with if code block. So after calculating, we compare if our total price value is equal to 0. In case it is, we'll send an alert message for him telling that no books were selected. And in other case, we can continue creating our order. So we'll start with setting an order date. So for our current order date, we set it to be equal for a current date, which can be taken with a now function. So let's get its value. And the time zone will be taking the default one for the application. Let's get in and set it. And now we are ready to create this order instance in our collection and also in database. So we use an create block and also get the value of our current order to be created. And now we are ready to set it to our order which is on the page. We set it to be equal to our current order. And one more step we have missed is setting for our current order total price value to be equal to those calculation result. And now we are finally ready to save our page and our function. And what we can do, we can now create a special button with a code block for it to redirect user after creating the order to the page with all of the details. So to create the redirection action, we go to our bookstore page and click on this button. After creating the order, we create a new action which will be for viewing the order. And we are again in a code block editor. And what we need to do out here is open in a new Kojic tab our instance, let it be our order. Let's get it and save. Let's now publish our application to view if all our last buttons are working properly. And now, as you can see, when we go and open our bookstore page, we can try to select some books. then confirm our order, and as you can see we have now all of the order details with already calculated total price, books, and set order date. But we need to add user an ability to modify this personal data, and also we need to add a new button which will mean the submission. And on click on this button, we also need to send the submission letter to the user's email. So let's go back to our page editor and add all of this functionality. So we go to our order page, and now we can add a possibility for user to input all of this data by loading our page in the edit mode. But the user doesn't need to modify the total price, therefore this field will be set as disabled. Also for table we need to remove ability to add and delete some books because this is the final choice. And now for us to send the submission for user, let's add a special button which will have a title submit. So click on this button, we would like to send the letter with all of the order details to our user. So to form the text for this letter, we need to first of all set all of the personal data fields to be required, so user will not have an ability to leave them empty, and only after inputting all of this data we will have an ability to save an order. So add validation, order date will be set by default by our code, and required date is also validated. And now on click on our submit button, we use a built-in save function which will save all the details in our order collection. And now we can save it. And to add the code blocks for sending an emails, we go to our order data type, create a custom action with a trigger on save, because as soon as our order will be saved, we can send a message to our user. And now we can start forming our email. So in this function, we need to first of all get all of the data from our order page. For this, we will create an variables which will store the values of our fields. The first one will be to store the name, and let's set it to be equal to the name from our page. It will be the first name. The same system string value will store the last name, which will be like surname, for example, and let's set it with a value of customer's last name. Let's get it. Also, the next field will store our date, required date. So let's get it. But that's not the string data type, therefore we need to transform it. So let's create date and set it to make text from our date. Let's remove this part. And the same thing we do with getting an address, but in our mail we will only specify the city. So let's get the address, but only city. And again, we create a system string to use it in our email then, which will store an address, and we set it with, again, using the create text field, but only specifying the shipment address and city. And also what we need to add is our users' books. So for this we will create also a system string which will store books list, and we can transform collection in some easy way because it is a list of books. Therefore we first of all set this books list to be an empty string, and then we'll be iterating through the whole books collection. So we will need to go through the whole collection of books in order books to buy, and we will stream through it. And for each book in our order, what we need to do, we need to add the name of this book to our books list. So it will be the result of creating a text with adding, first of all, the books list previous value, then we will add a white space, and the next part will be the name of the book. So let's get it. And now we're ready to go to creating our email. We will use a built-in send email code block, and we will store the result of the sending in a boolean variable, which will store the result, which could be a successful or not, true or false value. And we set this variable to be equal to our sending function. So we need to specify to whom we are sending this mail, and this is our customer's email. Let's get it. The name to display to our customer will be the bookstore, and the subject of our email will be our order details. Now we're ready to start working with a body of our letter. As we need to add the parameters taken from the page to this text, we'll use an format code block and add the following text. Here it is. I will copy the prepared one. So the first parameter is a name and surname of our users, so let's set them. First of all, we add another parameter, and now get the value of name, then get the value of surname. As you can see in our text, the next parameter will be the list of the books, so let's add it. Here is our next parameter, and here is our book list. Let's get it. Going forward, as you can see, the next field is a total price. We hadn't created yet, so let's try to first of all create a system string which will store our price and get the value from the page with order, and also transform it to a string with a create text code block with only one parameter. So let's set our price to be equal to this text, and now we can use it in our code block. We need to get a value and set it as the next parameter. Let me fix it. Here is a book list, and here is the price. And the final one are the city and the required date. So we add two more parameters to our letter text, and let's get the value of address code here, and also the date like this. And now, in case if our letter was sent successful, we will display a message for user on the page. So let's check if our successful variable is equal to true. So in case it is equal to true value, let's get it, then we will get an alert message telling our users that the email was sent. Now let's try to save and publish our application to test our send submission button. So now when we open our application and create some order, let's try to input some details, email, contact number, some address and shipment date. let's have it like this. First of all, we need to make this field disabled because this order date should be set automatically. Also, click on our submit button. As you can see, the data is saved and is now in our orders collection, but the button becomes an update button after save action. And what we'll try to do, we'll try to redirect to the main bookstore page after making order. So we go to our order page. Now we set order date field to be disabled. And also click on our submit button, we also add after server action, which will redirect us to the bookstore. And going to the code blocks, we use a link block to open in the same browser tab our home page. But also let's save and go to the app settings to check what is our home page right now. And here in the root section, as you can see, the home page is now to create a new bookstore, which is okay for us. But also, as you remember in our goal application, as you can see, the user only have seen the bookstore page, while the administrator has also viewed the order details, addresses, and other things. So this should be edited in our menu. Let's go to our default menu, and now our bookstore should be available to everyone, while order will be available only for some role, which is in our case administrator. The same we do the permission for our admin, and also the collection of books should be managed only by administrator. So let's now save and publish our application to test if our redirection and permissions are working. So after the successful publishment, let's go and open the bookstore, but reload our application. And as you can see now, we are not logged in and we only have an access to our main bookstore page. So let's try to create some order and let's input some name again, Yulia, also mail, contact number, shipment address. Let's create some new, Ukraine, Lviv region, city will be Lviv, and some random postal index, Green Street 32, random address, and now some required dates. And now on clicking to the submit button, the email was sent and we can leave our page and we are redirected to the main bookstore page. Also, I have received an email on my phone and we will attach a screen on how the body of our letter looks like. And also, if you will try to log in as administrator, which is my account, as you can see, I have now an access to the orders list and also to books list and also addresses. So I hope that this video was really helpful for you, and now you know how to create a web shop without spending and weeks or months with a code, but you can just use our Kojic builder to create your own customized web store. Thanks for watching. Bye.